Welcome to Edge of Known. We investigate the phenomena science still can't fully explain, documented anomalies, data that challenges consensus, and the boundaries of what we understand about the cosmos, the mind, and life itself. Every video cites the studies and the researchers. What you do with the information is up to you. In the spring of 1900, off the small Greek island of Antikythera, sponge divers found a Roman-era shipwreck. The following summer, salvage teams pulled up a corroded lump of bronze the size of a shoebox. It sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens for half a century. Then, beginning in the 1950s, the British historian of science Derek de Solla Price began studying it. By 1971, working with the Greek physicist Charalampos Karakalos, X-rays revealed what was inside the corrosion. Gears, interlocking ones, cut to a precision that would not be matched in any surviving artifact for more than 1,000 years. We still do not fully understand who built it, or how the manufacturing tradition behind it could vanish without leaving another trace. This is one of 7 archaeological cases where the evidence is real, the research is published, and the answer has not arrived. In this video, we are counting down 7 archaeological discoveries that remain genuinely unsolved. Not unsolved in the loose sense, unsolved in the strict sense. Each one has been studied by professional researchers. Each one has appeared in peer-reviewed journals. Each one has resisted explanation for decades, and in some cases, for over a century. We will not be talking about lost continents. We will not be talking about ancient aliens. We will be talking about objects you can walk into a museum and touch a glass case in front of, and what the people who study them for a living openly admit they still do not know. Number 7 first. Number 7. The Roman Dodecahedra. They are small bronze objects, 12-sided hollow with a circular hole cut into each of the 12 pentagonal faces and a small knob protruding from each of the 20 vertices. Around 130 have been found across the territory of the former Roman Empire, mostly concentrated in the northwestern provinces. Britain, Belgium, Germany, France, Switzerland. None has been found in Italy, none in the coastal Mediterranean. None in Roman North Africa. They date to roughly the 2nd through 4th centuries AD. Here is the strange part. There is no mention of them in any surviving Roman text. None. Not in Pliny, not in Vitruvius, not in any military manual or engineering treatise. The most exhaustively documented civilization of the ancient Mediterranean produced this object in such quantities that we keep finding them, including a fresh discovery at Norton Disney in Lincolnshire in 2023, and never thought to write down what they were for. Theories range from surveying instruments to candle holders to knitting tools. As classical archaeologist Lorna Hitchens noted in her doctoral research, none of the proposed functions is supported by direct evidence. The object simply exists in numbers in good condition in our museums, and we do not know what it does. Number 6. The Phaistos Disc. It was found on July 3, 1908, by the Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier in the basement of a Minoan palace on the southern coast of Crete. It is a fired clay disc about 16 centimeters across, and on each side, a spiral of symbols winds inward toward the center. 241 sign occurrences, 45 distinct symbols. The signs were not drawn or carved. They were stamped by pressing individual seal-like punches into the wet clay before it was fired. This is the oldest known example of movable type printing in human history. It predates Gutenberg by nearly 3,000 years. It also predates every other example of movable type printing by, conservatively, a millennium and a half. The disc was fired alongside a tablet inscribed in Linear A, the Minoan script that itself remains undeciphered. The disc is now displayed at the Heraclean Archaeological Museum. Despite over a century of attempts, including by Oxford phonetics specialist John Coleman and researcher Gareth Owens, no proposed decipherment has been accepted by the broader academic community. We know how it was made. We know roughly when. We do not know what it says. Number 5. The Tarim Basin mummies. Beginning in the late 20th century, archaeologists working in the Taklamakan Desert in what is now Xinjiang, in northwestern China, began uncovering naturally mummified remains in the desert sand. Some of these individuals dated to between roughly 2100 and 1700 BC. Their preservation was extraordinary. Their facial features looked, to early observers, distinctly Western. For 3 decades, the dominant assumption was that these were migrants, Indo-European-speaking pastoralists who had wandered far east from the Eurasian steppe. In October 2021, a team led by Zhang, working with researchers from Jilin University, the Max Planck Institute, and Harvard, published a genomic analysis of these mummies in the journal Nature. The result was unexpected. The earliest Tarim individuals carried no detectable Western steppe ancestry at all. They descended overwhelmingly, around 72%, from a population called the ancient North Eurasians, a population thought to have been almost entirely absorbed or extinct by the time of the Bronze Age. The Tarim people were, genetically, a relict, an island of an older world, isolated in the desert, somehow preserving an ancestry that nearly everywhere else had vanished. Number 4. The Voynich Manuscript. It is a book of approximately 240 vellum pages, illustrated with botanical drawings of plants that match no known species, astronomical diagrams, and rows of nude female figures bathing in interconnected pools of liquid. The entire text is written in a script that has never been seen anywhere else. It was acquired in 1912 by a Polish antiquarian named Wilfrid Voynich, in a chest of books being sold by a Jesuit college near Rome. It now resides at the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University. In 2009, Greg Hodgins, working at the University of Arizona's Accelerator Mass Spectrometry Laboratory, performed radiocarbon dating on 4 of the manuscript's vellum pages. The result placed the parchment between 1404 and 1438, with 95% confidence, older than scholars had previously believed by a full century. The manuscript has resisted decipherment by professional cryptographers, including some who broke German military codes during the Second World War. Statistical analysis confirms the text behaves like language. Letter frequencies follow patterns consistent with a real linguistic structure. But the language has not been identified, not as a known European language, not as a cipher of one, not as anything. Number 3. The Indus Valley Script. The Indus civilization flourished between roughly 2600 and 1900 BC across what is now Pakistan and northwestern India. Its cities, Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, were among the largest in the world at the time. They had standardized brick sizes, sophisticated drainage systems, apparent grid planning, and on small steatite seals, on pottery, on copper plates, the Indus people left behind a system of inscribed signs. Around 400 distinct symbols in roughly 4,000 surviving inscriptions, most of them very short, average length around 5 signs. The longest known inscription in a single line contains 17 signs. In 2004, a paper by independent scholar Steve Farmer, computational linguist Richard Sproat, and Harvard Sanskritist Michael Witzel argued something startling. They argued that the Indus script may not be writing at all, that the brevity, the lack of repeated patterns characteristic of language, and the absence of any longer text suggests these are non-linguistic symbols, religious or political emblems comparable to medieval coats of arms. In 2009, a team led by Rajesh Rao at the University of Washington in the journal Science pushed back, presenting statistical evidence consistent with linguistic structure. The debate has continued, active, unresolved, decades of computer analysis. No accepted decipherment. We do not know what these inscriptions say, and we are not even certain whether they say anything at all. Number 2. The Antikythera Mechanism. Returning to the object in our opening. In November 2006, a team led by Tony Freeth, including researchers from the universities of Cardiff, Athens, and Thessaloniki, published a landmark paper in the journal Nature. Using high-resolution surface imaging and three-dimensional X-ray tomography, they reconstructed the internal gear system to a degree of completeness no previous researcher had achieved. The mechanism they showed was an astronomical calculator. It tracked the positions of the sun and moon. It predicted eclipses through the Saros cycle, a 223-month period inherited from Babylonian astronomy. It modeled the irregular motion of the moon using a pin-and-slot mechanism that anticipated certain principles of differential gearing. It was, by every honest description, an analog computer, built around the end of the 2nd century BC. Here is what the 2006 paper and the subsequent 2008 paper in Nature did not solve. The mechanism is unique. There is no other object remotely like it in the surviving archaeological record from the entire ancient Mediterranean. Whatever workshop produced it must have been part of a manufacturing tradition, with apprentices and predecessors. None of that tradition has ever been found. The technology disappears completely. The next comparable mechanical clockwork would not be built for over 1,000 years, and we do not know why. Before we continue, if this is the kind of investigation you came here for, consider subscribing. 3 videos a week, always with verifiable sources. Number 1. Göbekli Tepe. On a hillside in southeastern Turkey near the city of Şanlıurfa lies a complex of massive stone enclosures. Circular arrangements of T-shaped limestone pillars, some over 5 meters tall, the largest weighing around 8 to 10 metric tons each. The pillars are carved with reliefs of foxes, scorpions, vultures, snakes, lions, and abstract anthropomorphic figures. Excavations began in 1995 under the auspices of the Şanlıurfa Museum and the Istanbul branch of the German Archaeological Institute, coordinated from the start by the German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt. After Schmidt's death in 2014, the project continued under Lee Clare. Here is what is genuinely difficult to absorb. The earliest layers at Göbekli Tepe date to approximately 9500 BC, roughly 11,500 years ago. 6,000 years older than Stonehenge, older than pottery, older than metalworking, older in any clear archaeological sense than agriculture itself. According to every standard model of how civilization began, hunter-gatherers did not build monumental architecture. Settled agriculture came first, then surplus, then specialized labor, then temples. Göbekli Tepe inverts that sequence. And there is one more detail. Around 8000 BC, the entire complex was deliberately buried. The builders covered their own work with tons of fill material, intentionally sealing it away. We do not know why they built it. We do not know why they buried it. We have an 11,000-year-old monumental site that should not, by every model we have, exist. 7 cases, everyone investigated, everyone published, none resolved, and these are only the cases where we have an object to study. Consider the Denisovans. In 2010, David Reich and his team at Harvard, working with Russian and German colleagues, sequenced an archaic human genome from a single finger bone found in the Denisova cave in southern Siberia. From that one bone, they identified an entire previously unknown branch of humanity. A branch that interbred with our ancestors. A branch that contributed up to 6% of the genomes of present-day Melanesians. We do not know what they looked like. We do not know how widely they ranged. We know they existed because their DNA is right now in the cells of millions of living human beings. The pattern keeps repeating. The evidence is real. The data is published. The answer is missing. The work is still being done. Quietly. In museums, in laboratories, in field camps in the Anatolian sun, the edge of what we know keeps moving, sometimes outward, sometimes unexpectedly inward. Thank you for staying until the end. The next investigation is already in production. Until then, sit with the question. Sometimes it's more useful than the answer.